Raids. This is a game by IELLO. It was presented at Gen Con last month, and the topic is, well, Vikings. I know we have a lot of Viking games these days. Maybe it's because of the TV show, maybe it's because of the video game God of War, or maybe just because it's a really cool theme. Here we have yet another Viking game, but one that its execution felt quite differently to me from a lot of other games with similar topics. The topic, again, may seem familiar, but wait until you see how it's done. In the game, players control groups of Vikings that are gonna go around with the longships, raiding, pillaging, breaking stuff, and that includes both items and people's skulls. And also fighting monsters, so there's that good fantasy element ingrained in there. And as they do so, they will perform different activities that will allow them to score points. They will go on 4 journeys, and at the end of those, the player with the highest total of victory points is the winner of the game. It is interesting that the main mechanics is shared by this game with Tokaido, a game that has been quite successful in the last couple of years, which is all about Zen philosophy, is all about enjoying the beauty of nature, is all about calm and peace and slowness. And now to see that mechanic applied to these people that are jumping into the jaws of giant monsters and happy whether they kill the monster or they get killed and go to Valhalla, well, that's an interesting twist to see the mechanics applied to such a different theme. Anyways, let's take a closer look at raids. This is the board of the game, which represents the area where the players will take their journeys, pillaging, killing monsters, recruiting Vikings, and do all sort of fun things. You have several spaces on the board, as you can see, that represent where you will place your tiles. There is a set of tiles that you shuffle face down and you place randomly on the board for round 1, for the first voyage, as you can see also from the back here, the SAS one. Once the players have completed the first voyage, then they set up the game with the tiles for the second voyage that have different combinations of things. And then we have the third, and of course we have the fourth. And at the end of the fourth voyage, the game is over and you count victory and you count victory points. Also, each voyage will be associated with a different harbor. This is the harbor tile that is in the location where you start and also where you end. At the end, the players will go around with the longship, and the first player to get there will go to the space with the lowest numeral on the harbor, and so on and so forth. The all players are there, and that's when you set up the following game, the following journey. Also, each tile will allow you to score based on different conditions. For example, here the player with the most monster tiles that gets there will, well, the player with the most monster tile will get to score 6 points, second player 3 points, third player 1 point. If it's 4 players, the fourth player doesn't get anything. And if there's a tie, then the order in which players arrive. There's one player with the most runes, say player with the most goods, a player with the most access, and so on and so forth. And since there are more than 4 tiles and you only play 4 journeys each game, that means that you will not get to score the same things each game, and that has a huge impact on the game. Now, the game plays a little bit like Tokaido in the way in which units activate, in the sense that it is always the last ship that goes. And so you will take your ship if you're the last player and you'll go ahead as much as you want, and then you will interact on the tile on which you stop. Or will you? Well, there are a couple of twists. First, in Tokaido and other games of that kind, where the last player goes, pretty much you just slow down and you collect everything that you find on your way. Not here. The last player, the player with the last longship, is indeed the player that needs to activate. But first, here's a twist. First is you don't move to a tile and then you interact. Rather, you interact with a tile, usually by taking it, and then you move and you will interact with the tile you're stopping next turn. So you start by interacting and then moving to the tile that you intend to interact with next time. Why is this important? Because you are getting there hoping to interact with the tile, somebody may reach you and challenge you. If a player stops where you are, then there's going to be a fight and one of the two players is going to have to get the heck out of there, that is to continue on their journey and go somewhere else. Interesting situation here. Another plot twist, which again prevents player from scooping up everything that has been left on the board between themselves, the active player, therefore the last player, and the second to last is when the active player starts by collecting the token where they are. Then they need to discard all of the tokens between themselves and the second to last. So there is that interesting idea here that now you cannot exploit these things, you have to catch up and go somewhere else. That also means that depending on when players stop, suppose that now this player here goes. If this player goes here, well, this player then next turn will have a lot of choices. But if this player here decides to go here, now several tiles are going to be discarded. So you can manipulate pretty much how many tiles are left to the player that will activate next. However, of course, if you're going ahead a lot, you're forcing the opponent to lose a lot of cards that get discarded, but it also means that you went ahead a lot and you missed opportunities because there's an opportunity cost for you too, since you always go in only one direction and you get only 4 journeys. So these are some of the plot twists. You move ahead for as much as you can, as you want. However, you discard the cards between you when you activate last player and the player right in front of you. And again, also interact with a tile at the beginning of a turn, pretty much at the beginning of the turn after which you stopped in front of that tile. Now, speaking of your launch ship, this of course is the token that represents your ship on the board, but you also have a board, a personal board representing your launch ship. You will place tokens representing Vikings on it. The long ship has 5 slots where you will be able to load tiles as you acquire them. When you acquire new tiles, if you don't like the ones that you have or you want to make room, you can just discard one and add another one. The tiles that you get also influence the number of shields. You can only have a number of Vikings on your ship equal to the number of shields. So actually, if this is my setup right now, I can bring no more than 5 Vikings with me, and maybe then I'll sell these goods and I will free up some shields. So the tokens that you collect are, well, you can have sails, and that each sail will give you a Viking. You will recruit a Viking when you go back to the harbor at the end of the journey. These are worth victory points, these goods, but only after you sell them. To sell one of these, you need to stop at a tile with a market such as this one. So if this tile is on the board, this will be in a later journey. You get there, you get a Viking, because that's what the icon says. You can sell up to 2 goods and say I sell these 2 goods. I also take that tile, I take that Viking. That was a very profitable stop. If of course I managed to stay there until the end of the turn, after which I landed there. So some tiles will go on your board and they become upgrades or stuff that is actually physically on the board or on your ship. Other things, it's like memories. You remember, wasn't it great when I sold those logs and those beautiful sheep, and yes, and we sold stuff in that harbor which we then devastated. Good times, good times. So some tokens will be not on your ship but still in your play area because you may want to keep them there to score them at the end of the game. Other specific things that happen on the board as you travel. If there is a space with an arrow, either because it's printed on the board, like in that case, or because it is added to a location by a tile, either case you cannot stop there. You have to move past until you reach a dot that doesn't have an arrow. When you move past a monster, there are several things that may happen. Maybe you have 0 Vikings on your ship, and then you just go past the monster, nothing happens, even the monster feels sad for you that you don't have any Vikings. If you have some Vikings, however, the monster takes interest in you. You can choose to just go through with no advantage, nothing, but you have to sacrifice a Viking, just a little snack for the monster. You discard a Viking and you go through. Otherwise, you can choose to fight the monster, in which case you need to discard a number of Vikings equal to the strength of the monster, which is the number printed there. So if I kill those 3 Vikings, they'll go to Valhalla, they'll be happy, and I get to take this tile and place it in my play area. The number, however, the strength of the monster is reduced by 1 for each axe blade that I have, and also there's some double blade axes, so they count as 2. So after a while, when you load this stuff, you really get bad axe. Get it? Bad axe. Anyways, this gives you discount on the number of Vikings that you need to feed to the monster to kill the monster. So this could be very good upgrades. And of course, these are worth victory points at the end of the game. When you move past one of these spaces, you simply recruit a Viking. At the beginning of each journey, you place on these spaces a number of Vikings equal to the number of players. So there's always 1 per. As you go around, you may also collect runes. You put them in your play area, not on your ship. They don't take up a slot. And at the end of the game, they'll be worth a number of points based on how many runes you have. You have 5, 15 points. You have only 1 point. Meh, not so great. In later turns, you will also find... in later journeys, you will find other things. Something that you already have in Journey 1, but then also you get in later journeys, is the Mjolnir, which pretty much takes up space on your launch ship for most of the game, but at the end of the game can be worth a lot of points because, among other things, you will get to score points from several sources, but you also get to score a number of points equal to the number of Vikings that you have times the number of Mjolnir symbols. So here I have 5 Vikings, 2 Mjolnirs, that 10 points just for that thing. So pretty neat, right? And then again, other game effects, other things, but these are the general ideas. You move around the board, interacting with the tiles, stopping by the tiles that you want to interact with and hope you'll still be there, then nobody kicks you out of there. Speaking of, how do you do so? Pretty simple. When you move in the location of an opponent, you must trigger combat. To trigger combat, you discard, as the attacker, 1 Viking. Then the defender can choose to stay in the combat, to retaliate, or to flee. The defender flees, then they simply go to another location, and maybe they'll trigger another combat. If they want to retaliate after you discarded 1 Viking to trigger combat, they discard 2. And I think you know where this is going. Then pretty much it's just you can, each round of combat you can choose to retaliate or flee. Now it's back to the attacker that would need to discard 3 to retaliate, stay in the fight. Then the other player, if he or she wants to retaliate, will need to discard 4, and so on and so forth. Is to stay in the fight is always 1 more than the opponent just discarded. So there will be a point in which a player decides not to retaliate or cannot retaliate, and one of the players will need to move to another location, and that's pretty much it. Continue like this for 4 journeys and collect points as you go. You score points for the arbor at the end of each journey. At the end of the game, again, you get to score points based on the Mjolnirs, based on the goods that you sold, based on the runes that you collected, possible other sources, and at the end of the game, the player with the highest total of points is the winner of the game. Raids is a game with very good production values. Maybe the one thing that I found to be below the standards of the rest of the game is the rulebook that has some passages which are a little confusing. They almost seem to contradict each other. Some definitions or explanations are a little bit vague. Sometimes information is not where you expect it to be. For a game this simple, I just had to go through the rulebook more times than I expected I would have to. But then the game came together nicely once we got the general idea and we got the main ways to apply those concepts to gameplay. And gameplay is really fun. Again, a comparison with Tokaido comes to mind just because of the idea of the last player goes next. But here with the fact that the resources between the last player and the previous ship disappear, well, creates all of different sorts of tough decisions. For the player, I would say for the player that's left behind, yes and no, in the sense that when you're left behind is what the other player did that determines how many tiles are going to be removed. In truth, when you got there, you may think, well, where the player is going to be next turn, where they're going to go, because I like to go here and here. The point is that if I just go here, this tile may be removed because my opponents are going to take it. So in a certain sense, although it looks like a passive thing, a done deal, you place yourself in the situation that that allow then other players to take those tiles. So again, you have a tough choice there. Do I get this tile now and hope to get that tile next turn, if it will be there at all, either because it was taken by another player or reserved by a player that is much stronger than me and I'm not going to mess with them, or because it's going to be eliminated by the fact that I had to catch up with other players. So there is an interesting opportunity cost there, which pretty much is the main thing. It is about opportunity cost, because stopping to a rune place or stopping to another location that gives me something else, it's quote unquote, it costs me the same. But the fact is I have to should I try to go in both places, risking that then maybe the location I really like is not going to be available, or should I go to that one directly, neglecting something else? So calculating and managing opportunity cost is a major element of the design. And it's fun that you're doing it in an interactive environment in which you're competing for resources. Going to that place first gives me that stuff. Hooray, I'm gonna get that one and you're not gonna get it. However, I skipped through a lot of other things that I'm not getting either. So it's also about reading what your opponents are trying to do, what they are likely to do. Sometimes you kind of like get out of your way just to ruin another player's strategy, because say preventing a player from getting their 5th rune, well, that will give you a considerable relative advantage because they're not scoring all those points. I'm not gonna get out of my way to prevent you from getting your 2nd rune. It's also important to keep flexible. If you collect the 5 runes in the first 2 trips, you have locked in those points, but then of course the opponents are going to try to get you stuck only to go to rune places, which at that point are useless to you. So it's good to get a little bit of everything, so that depending on what is available in later journeys, you can complete that set of resources that will score you big points, rather than find yourself with something that you scored quote unquote early on, although you cash it in only at the end. You score it early on, but then you're stuck with those same resources that don't give you much. So a lot of interesting wrinkles, a lot of interesting elements of the design for a game that ultimately is choose where you want to go next, sit there for a turn, grab the tile, choose where you want to go, where you want to go next time. The dynamic of the fact that you can attack each other, which I don't always like in this kind of game. This kind of game is very Eurogamey, of course. And I played a lot of war games and I'm perfectly fine there, you know, inflicting mutual destruction on each other. But in Euro games, it's about scoring points and collecting sets. Sometimes I'm like, hey, this is not a war game. Do your thing. I'm doing my thing. And yet somehow I didn't mind. I thought it was very interesting that I could choose to use my Vikings to attack you, preventing you from taking certain resources, or I can spend them doing other things. It felt more Eurogamey than otherwise. I would say that the element of combat felt well integrated within the overall general Eurogamey profile of the game, and that worked for me. So what I have here is a lot of interesting decisions, a lot of different ways of scoring points, many paths to victory, and I've seen in fact the game being won by completely different combinations of resources, sometimes by the player that kept a low profile, didn't look like when you added up all of those points would be a lot of points, but turned out they were. So I like many different ways of scoring points, many different paths to victory, many ways of getting there and messing up with your opponents, trying to prevent them from scoring more points than you. With the fact that not with the harbors, different things will score in different games. That has a huge impact on the general strategy, and it really feels like the game has high replay value in general, but also because of that element. It's the fact that, of course, setup is random, each journey in each game, plus with the variable harbor scoring tiles, then you really have elements that increase the replay value of the game considerably. So in general, high praises from me for Raids. It is another Viking game, but not just another Viking game. The theme has been done a lot in the last couple of years. The mechanic, not so much. The most direct relative that I can think for this game in terms of mechanic is Tokaido, and the game feels quite differently from Tokaido. So if you already have Tokaido, don't fear not. This is not going to be redundant. There's definitely room enough in your collection for both Tokaido and Raids. And in general, you may want to make some room in your collection for Raids, because it is simple. It is not a hardcore game. It is simple, but it has enough depth to be, in fact, appealing to serious gamers, while also at the same time remaining definitely available, accessible to much more casual gamers. Raids in general, high marks for me. It's a really good game.